Since we both agree that slavery is bad,
Definitely.
do you agree that we should both oppose the Islamic slave trade?
I don't really see an Islamic slave.
And that's the liberal.
No, I'm not saying
That's the
it
cognitive
exists.
dissonance. If you oppose Islamic teaching, do you think the Muslims are just going to give it up?
No, of course not.
Exactly. And this is why the liberals fail. Because nice, comfortable liberals in their nice middle-class homes with their nice middle-class jobs, and most of them are white, they can't deal with conflict. MI5 has said that 90% of all the cases that they are tracking at this moment in time are Islamist threats. We've got a problem in our society that we keep tolerating Islamist ideology, and we need to say no more.
You were making a good point, and I was just speaking with the...
Could you stick that in the back, please? Go on.
Speaking with a Pakistani guy, and I had a great interest in researching some of the stories of a lot of the ex-Muslims, especially in the Middle East.
Yeah.
There is many Pakistani people leaving this religion.
Yeah.
Most Iranians are not Muslims. They
Yeah.
don't believe in this religion.
Yeah.
Some are atheists, but a lot are becoming Christian.
Yeah.
There's even some other people here.
There are ex-Muslim Christians here in this park,
Yeah, and they're from the Middle East. So it's very interesting because this is the region of the world where this religion has started. So we keep on hearing about many people leaving Christianity to become Muslim.
Yeah.
But there's also many Muslims leaving to become
Christian.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. What's your take on that?
So my take on it is, when a Muslim makes the boast that there's lots of Christians becoming Muslims, it is a boast to try and demotivate us. It's a boast to try and make us feel, oh, we're losing. But the reality is, if you look at Pew Research, Christianity is still a growing religion. It's growing in track with world population at 35%.
Yes.
So Christianity, according to the research, is still a growing religion. And when Muslims say
you're helping to grow it.
Yes, I am. I really am. And when, thanks be to God, and when Muslims make this boast, they're often actually demonstrating their own ignorance, because a lot of their attitude is, if you're white, you must be Christian. So if you become Muslim and you're white, then you must be a Christian and become Muslim. That's not true. Most English people aren't even Christian.
That's true.
I am not denying that a lot of people are becoming Muslim.
Yeah, yes.
The evidence shows that that is true.
Yeah.
But Islamic growth is boosted primarily through childbirth. But, and I'm going to land. But the reality is, there is reverse traffic. I am helping right now multiple Christians who have come from Muslim families. One from Palestine.
Oh wow.
One from Palestine. One from a sort of Pakistani Asian subcontinent.
Yeah,
like,
Indians.
and there are others that I'm aware of. There's many here in this park.
Yeah, I was just speaking with one.
Yeah, one just got baptized this Easter. A Christian who comes to this park from a Muslim family. But the truth is, when a Muslim becomes a Christian, they are sacrificing everything.
A lot.
And so the quality of a convert from Islam to Christianity is much better than a quality of a Christian who becomes a Muslim, because there's nothing to gain in social status, and you only collect a whole lot of problems if you're a Muslim who becomes a Christian. So,
yes, if you're from a Middle East.
and yet Muslims are still being inspired to become Christians, and I know it,
yes,
because I get their messages in my inbox all the time. All the time.
Yeah. You see, I was doing some research last night. Another thing I want to bring up. Some people have this belief that 99.9 or 100% of Somali people are Muslim. That's not true.
That's not true. Yeah.
I was watching a Christian Somali channel.
Yeah.
And there's some atheist Somalis as well.
Yeah.
The research that I'm finding out in general is that there are 13 countries that claim to be that are Muslim, where they hold the apostasy laws.
Yeah.
And the apostasy law is death.
Yes.
Right? Now, for me, you could call me human rights activist, whatever.
Yeah.
How can you want to threaten or kill someone for a choice that they make to follow a belief?
Yeah.
Is this not between the individual and the creator to make that choice?
Right. So let's discuss that, because there's a lot of points to make. The criticism that of the Islamic apostasy laws is that it is moving us backwards. In the Old Testament, there were apostasy laws for Israelites. But as Christians, we believe in an old covenant and a new covenant. The idea is that we are meant to move forward into the new covenant. And in the new covenant, there is no apostasy law, right? But the problem with apostasy laws is they encourage hypocrisy. They encourage people to pretend to be something that they're not. They also imprison people.
Yes.
And also it actually demonstrates an internal contradiction with Islamic teachings, because the Quran says that there should be no compulsion in religion, but the hadiths say if someone chooses a religion other than Islam, you should kill them.
Yes.
And there are millions of people who don't want to practice Islam that are being forced to practice Islam because they are scared of being killed.
Yes.
But there's a hypocrisy amongst liberals. Because if you say to people, if you say to liberal society and progressives and left-wingers, if you say to them, hey, do you think it's wrong to kill people for choosing a religion? They'll say no. Then if you say to them, will you oppose Islam that teaches we should kill people for choosing a religion? They'll still say no. So in other words, they condemn killing people for choosing a religion, but they won't combat a religion that teaches killing people for practicing the thing that they condemn. And it's cowardice. It is the cowardice of comfortable white middle-class people that don't want to confront an evil ideology because they're weak and afraid.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting because I know a Pakistani, and he was at the mosque celebrating Eid. He's not a Muslim.
Yeah.
He's celebrating Eid though.
Yeah.
There was this guy that I watched. He's a doctor, a Muslim doctor. He said that there are people going to the mosque who are not Muslim.
Yeah.
Some is questioning their sexuality. Some are leading prayer as an imam, and they're not Muslims.
Yeah.
But they've confided secretly in him because he doesn't judge people. And this was a Muslim that said this.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to really ask questions and say that there's something there which is problematic, where people are so afraid and scared that they cannot leave. They're still going to the mosque and they're not a Muslim.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, exactly. So we need a government that is not frightened to tackle this thing. It's happening in the UK. Yes. I know people who there have been death attempts on their life because they became Christians. Nissa Hussain, the family of Nissa Hussain. Go and look him up. You can find his story on YouTube. No, he's Pakistani. Right? He was driven out from Bradford because of Muslim intolerance. The government did nothing because our government is liberal, and liberals can't bring themselves to tackle this problem. Because in their multicultural worldview, Islam is a colour, an ethnicity, and you can't be seen to be racist. So the point is the liberal elites are petrified to tackle this problem. We need a government that is willing to go after the thugs of Islam and is willing to defend the rights of Muslims to leave Islam. You saw that story, that YouTube clip, I'm sure, where a guy, a non-Muslim, was eating a meal in a canteen,
over there,
right? And he was being harassed,
heckle,
right? That should not be allowed to happen.
Yeah, microaggressions.
Yeah, it's microaggressions, and we should tackle it. Those people that did that to that guy should all lose their jobs, right? And if it was up to me, they wouldn't be allowed to claim benefits. And if they weren't born here, they'd be deported. We need...
Oh, you're saying just like...
Get rid of them.
Do you not
get
think like
rid of them.
Do you not think like a warning or something?
No, just get rid of them. Like, because
you're saying you had enough of this bullshit.
Like, it is bullshit, and it's time we all call it as bullshit. And it is time that we have a government that is willing to stand up to this BS.
Well, yeah, it's bullying. It's microaggression.
It's not just There was that other clip of that black Christian lady that was eating her meal, and a Muslim guy was filming her while he was harassing her for eating on a bus.
On the bus, yes. I
yes?
saw it, yes.
Now, good for her, she stood up for herself. Because, Jamaican fire. Caribbean fire, right? Like,
we don't play games.
They eat spicy food, they're spicy, it's great.
That's it.
Right? But the point is, that should never have happened.
Yeah.
That guy needs to be found. Like, he needs to be investigated to see if he is sympathetic to other Islamist opinions and ideas. We've got a problem in our society that we keep tolerating Islamist ideology, and we need to say no more.
Okay.
Right? And you're not going to get that from a liberal. You're not going to get that from a fancy pants, middle class, Islington, I want to virtue signal how tolerant I am at my dinner party kind of person.
Kind of like a pick-me kind
You've got to choose a different ideology, and that ideology is a muscular Christianity. We Christians have dealt with Islamists before. We know how to beat them. We have beaten them before.
No, you haven't. I've seen you here. You have not lost a debate. I've seen you. I said it to you 3 weeks ago. I have not seen you lose one debate.
But we had
debated all of them.
Today we had 2 Islamist dogs that tried to intimidate one of the Christian women here in the park.
Yeah, why do they? A lot of these dudes like
They do it.
women.
They do it because
What's
they
that
do it.
all about?
They do it because their mindset is to dominate.
Yeah, like what's on Hatun Tash?
They tried to kill her.
They
Yes.
tried to murder her.
Yeah.
Just because she doesn't agree with the ideology.
Exactly.
Is she not allowed to make her own choice?
So the question is,
going
bro,
on?
what do we do about that? Do we continue to do what the liberals do and pretend we haven't got a problem and talk about the dangers of the alt-right? By the way, I'm against the alt-right as well. But I am at least intelligent enough to recognize that the alt-right is not a threat. It's not a bigger danger than the Islamist. MI5 has said that 90% of all the cases that they are tracking at this moment in time are Islamist threats. Right? 10% come from the alt-right. So the alt-right is a threat,
Is a threat.
but it is not as big a threat as the Islamist. But our governments, because of their liberal ideology, they can't think like a sensible person. They have to try to be fair to all religions because all religions can be as bad. All groups can be as bad.
Are they?
Well, exactly. They're not.
They're not.
Different groups have different problems.
Different, yeah, there's different levels.
And so we need to address the thuggish Islamist element of Islam, and we need to confront it with strength and intolerance and with a determination to eradicate it.
Well, eradicate it or them?
It.
Doesn't sound much like it.
Well, I'm not a
Sounds more
snowflake,
like
and I'm quite able to say what I mean.
Yeah, but-
And I don't believe in that whole subjective idea of you get to reinterpret what I say.
what do they
If
do
I
that's
said
so
it,
bad?
I meant it.
Yeah, but they do that so bad.
Do you think slavery is bad?
Of course.
Well, Islamic ideology permits slavery.
Where?
I've read it in the
Yes, Sudan.
Yes, in the Muslim
Mauritania.
world, you can buy a black slave.
But that's not here in Britain.
It is in the Islamic world.
Lots of things are going on planet Earth that we don't agree with.
Do
I
you,
wouldn't-
so do you think that we should oppose the Islamic slave trade?
So what you saying? You're going to go invade?
Do you?
Because they're
I'm asking
doing
you a question. Do you think, since we both agree that slavery is bad,
it? Definitely.
do you agree that we should both oppose the Islamic slave trade?
I don't really see an Islamic state.
That's the liberal.
No, I'm not saying it
That's the
doesn't
cognitive
exist.
dissonance
I'm not
right
saying
there.
it
That's the
doesn't
cognitive
exist.
dissonance.
Some boys of
Right, go on.
ships crossing the ocean.
You can go
with
to
slaves on
Mauritania.
board
Yeah.
and
You can buy
You
a
should
black-
listen to this.
You can
This
go
sounds
to.
more scripted.
No, it's not. I've done my research with all due
There you go.
respect.
That's the liberal. They obfuscate about the problem. They and I,
No, I've done my research.
no,
with all due
it's
respect.
obfuscating. You're
You
obfuscating.
just said, oh, he's never lost a debate.
You're obfuscating,
I've
bro.
watched his debates.
You're
never lost.
obfuscating.
I've watched at
That's
least
his
10
opinion.
to 15 of his debates.
And he's never lost.
I've watched for hours.
And he's never lost.
He hasn't lost a debate.
Not yet.
Ali
And
Dow
you're
and
not
the
on
other
his
guys
team.
won't. Ali Dow and the other guys won't
You're not on
debate
his
him.
team.
He's not a Christian.
I'm not Christian.
Right, but here's the problem for you, is you just said slavery is bad. I just pointed out where
Yeah, but
slavery
won't
is happening,
oppose it.
but you won't oppose
Yeah,
it.
won't
You're,
oppose.
you're making out as if loads of ships are crossing the ocean with people in chains. I mean, I'm not.
There's
I'm not
loads of
denying
people
it's
in
happening.
there's
Maybe
loads
the
of people in
cartels are doing it
slavery.
in,
Yeah,
South
we need
America,
to
but
oppose
why
it there as well. Go
What
on.
it is, right?
So why you focus
In
on
Mauritania,
Go on.
they're estimating around 20% of the population is in slavery. I have watched the videos with people in chains.
Yes.
In Mauritania, Mali, Chad, Sudan.
Nigeria,
Yes.
North Nigeria.
Also Libya.
Libya, yes.
You could openly buy
And why
a
is it
black
in
slave.
Algeria.
You
Why
could
is it in
openly
Libya?
buy a black slave
Who
there
destroyed the
for
country? I used
$200
to live there.
to
Yes.
$400.
Yes.
You can openly go and buy a black
Yes.
slave there.
So we know this.
Yes.
Did
The
NATO
other thing
call
So
is,
so let's
that
let's
NATO
move on.
calls
Let's
that.
move.
Okay,
Or
let's
you're gonna
be
deny that?
honest.
I'll
We need
debate
to
you, sir,
stop-
in a second.
We need to stop doing this thing where we're trying to blame everything on the white man, right? The reality is, in these books, the Hadith, which is Persian,
Yeah.
right, who's not white,
Yep.
it's allowing the slavery. You're seeing 2 blacks were sold to redeem an Arab.
Yes.
We need to stop making this that it's the
We
white
have to
man.
stop making excuses.
Yeah, they have practiced this slave trade for 1400 years.
Yes.
Right? They didn't
Brother,
take
you're
only
preaching.
black-
You're preaching to the choir right now.
Yeah, sorry.
So my point to you is,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Oh, no, yeah, I
right?
was just showing the
so
point.
so we now need to think, and this is where liberalism fails and Christianity succeeds, because where, as we have just seen demonstrated, the liberal wants to obfuscate and wants to try to distract from the issue.
Yeah.
A Christian has no problem in saying that we should intervene and stop the slavery of the cartels, and we should intervene and stop the slavery of the Islamic world. But the problem is, if you oppose Islamic teaching, do you think the Muslims are just going to give it up?
No, of course not.
Exactly. And
That's gonna be a problem.
this is why the liberals fail. Because nice, comfortable liberals in their nice middle-class homes with their nice middle-class jobs, and most of them are white, they can't deal with conflict.
So you're saying they're scared? They're cowards?
They are shitting themselves.
Okay.
They are literally have brown stains in their pants, and they are all lily-livered, jelly-spined cowards.
Okay.
Because they'll say across the dining room table, slavery is an horrendous affront to human rights.
But they won't
And then you
condemn
say, well, here, Islam permits slavery. And then they'll go, but we've got to be tolerant of Islamic culture. And that's cognitive dissonance
Yes,
at its
at its
worst.
best.
Can Islamic culture though?
Can you bring up the hadith? Would you be able to check it on your phone of where the two blacks were traded?
We both know that hadith is there. What's the
This
point?
is not scripted.
No, I want you to bring up because he's not believing.
I'm not interested. I'll talk to him separately. What is your
No,
conversation
no,
with
no.
me?
Yes, I'm agreeing on that. What I want to know is,
Because the thing is, if we start doing if we start actually doing some kind of theatre,
you're saying it's like
you
a play.
then actually his point becomes true. Where
okay.
we started having a real conversation.
Yeah.
Let's keep it a real
you're saying it got
conversation.
distracted.
Don't do something just because he's listening. Keep to the conversation you want to have. Otherwise, he's
Asking
making
real
a rap.
questions.
Well, he
Real
is.
questions.
I mean,
No, they're not.
okay.
As soft as
So
you like.
continue with the conversation you want to have.
so yeah, like, you know, I'm just very interested in this, and you know, like a lot of people who's leaving from that religion and becoming either Christians
Yeah.
or becoming atheists and stuff. And what do you think is like can be done to help those people?
Great question.
Because a lot of people are being
Great
threatened
question.
and attacked.
Great question. So the first thing is the church needs to get in shape. So right now, I am trying to help a Christian who's been forced out of his family home. He's been made homeless, right? And a lot of Christians are not there to support him, right? He's homeless, and now as Christians, we've got to figure out how to get him a home. Christians need to organize themselves so that we have the facilities in place so that when a Christian gets kicked out of his Muslim house, he has a home to go to, right? And the problem with a lot of Christians is they don't want to get their hands dirty. They always they're passing the potato, right? Again, it's the middle class syndrome.
It is, yeah.
Because a lot of Christians are middle class and they don't want conflict. So it's like, I want someone else to do it, but I don't want to do it myself. So as Christians, we need to get our own house in order, and we need to be in a place to support Muslims who have become Christian. That means finding them a home. It means finding them wives and husbands. Like, I've helped a Christian sister find a husband, and now she's going to get married.
Okay.
Right? She's from a Muslim background. That would normally have been done by her family. We have to do that. We've got to help them find jobs, because normally their own Muslim community would help them find jobs. If they have been excluded from the Muslim community, then we Christians need to help them find jobs.
True.
But we also need, as well as a church reaction, we also need the kind of government that will act from the top.
Okay.
It must become a police priority to protect Muslims who leave Islam. Right?
And that's irrespective of what religion they choose.
Yes, it's irrespective. If a Muslim becomes Christian or wants to just leave Islam, the state should protect them. And anyone that threatens them, harasses them, or challenges them in any way, other than an intellectual debate, obviously, but any kind of harassment, alarm, or distress should be tackled. And it should be tackled by the state. But right now, as the example of Nisar Hussein demonstrates, the state is looking the other way.
Yeah.
And it is doing it because it's frightened of a conflict with the wider Muslim community. The liberal establishment knows that if it starts challenging these Muslim gangs, it's going to get embroiled in a wider fraction
big kind of-
with the Muslim community. We need a government that's not frightened to do that. But we've got governments that are frightened to do that.
Well, would you say though, or agree though, that a lot of Muslims in general are quite tolerant though, and then there's some which take it to higher extremes. Would you
Yes,
agree on that?
absolutely. The minority of Muslims that actually apply Islam fully is a tiny minority.
Small minority.
Small minority. But as I showed I did a talk earlier today about the Henry Jackson Society and its survey, nearly over 50% of Muslims want to impose Sharia law.
That's dangerous.
That is dangerous to you, it's dangerous to me, and we as Christians shouldn't be passive in resisting that. We should resist it culturally, we should resist it politically, we should resist it socially, and we should resist it economically.
So is not Sharia is permitting slavery, sex slavery and child marriage?
Those are all included in Sharia law, but it does a
should
lot
be
of other
against
stuff.
this.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like that's stating the obvious,
Yeah.
right? Like, but the point is, the liberals, they'll say I'm against child marriage, but they won't say that they're against Sharia law. They'll say that they're against slavery, but they won't say they're against Sharia law. As a Christian, I don't have the liberals' problem. I can think straight. I can say I'm against it, and I can say that I am against it in any group that embodies it. So I can say that I'm against racism. Oh, you're setting up a Nazi party, are you? Well, I'm against you. You're part of the Ku Klux Klan, are you? Well, I'm against you. Well, same logic applies. If someone says they're in favor of child marriage or slavery or reducing Christians to second-class citizens, I can say that I'm against them.
That's a straw man.
And by being against them, if Islam teaches those things, then I can say I'm against
But it doesn't
Islam, I'm
happen in this
against
country.
Sharia law.
Why
So
do you
you're
bother
kind of
yourself
calling
with
it out for what it is then. Okay, and not
It's a
like
non-issue.
going around the book.
Yeah. Now, the point is, right? Some people want us to think of, in terms of this question about it's a non-issue, right? They want us to say, well, it's not happening. Tell that to Nissa Hussein, who had to flee Bradford because the Muslims tried to kill him. Tell that to my friend who was made homeless because her family wouldn't accept that she wanted to be Christian. Tell that to my brother who's here in the park, whose family
70 million
and his
population.
community have basically
dedicate your life
driven
to that?
him out of a city here in the UK.
concerns in the
So
sky.
this idea that it doesn't happen is a lie of the liberals. And we should not listen to their
There's
lies.
whole prisons.
And
for
we should
criminals
call
that
them out on their cowardice that they don't want to deal with it. There's forced conversions happening in British
In the
prisons.
prisons, yes.
Forced conversions.
false.
Forced conversions
even
are
possible
happening
in a prison?
in Britain.
Yes, I've heard
How's
this,
that even
yes.
possible?
Yes, and that's been reported by the government itself. The government itself is saying that there are forced conversions happening in prisons. So it is
Well, they won't
happening
get
in
no
the
lunch.
UK.
They don't-
So it
doesn't
is
make any
something
sense.
that we deal with. And notice how the liberals always want to try and diminish it. They always want to talk about something else. They always want to try and ignore it. That is the disease of liberalism that we
It's
must
a
reject.
minuscule issue you're bringing
We
up.
must
It's
reject this
minuscule.
disease of liberalism. God.
The problems we have on planet Earth,
Even
and you're
some
worried
Muslims
about
agreed
that.
that it's happening.
Yes,
Even some Muslims in the prisons have agreed it's happening.
yes.
So there's no need to deny it.
The evidence is there if people are willing to look. But the media don't want to focus on it. And that brings us to another issue which is connected to the whole of this.
You want to send an army
The
to deal with
British
three
media are a village of people. They're a town's worth of people.
I'm a village.
Maybe about 2,500, right? They are all on the same page. And they act as a shepherd about our perspective. They focus you in on what they want you to think is an issue, whilst ignoring things that they don't want you to think are issues. We have to reject the influence of the media over our perspective. You owe it to yourselves to educate yourselves, about what is happening around these questions, so that you aren't a sheep bleating out the narratives of the liberals like you're all hearing right now. The sheeple of British society only think it's an issue if the BBC
So how do
says
you
it
go
is.
about dealing with this?
You've got to
this
free
minuscule
yourself from this
problem?
problem.
Yeah, but how do you go about
Go
dealing
on,
with it?
you want.
I mean, you're losing sleep over this. How do you go about dealing with it?
You know, I'm going to let someone else
All right.
speak. It was a good convo.
Can I give you a gift?
Yeah. I took your other gift.
Did you read it?
I haven't read it as of yet.
Okay, have a read.
I'm
Come
going
back
to
to me.
read it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're an atheist or what?
We had this conversation
right.
the last time. We had
Right.
it the last time.
Okay,
yes.
we'll
I'm
come back
not an
to-
atheist. I believe
All right.
in the Creator, so I'm not
Okay.
an atheist.
Well, I mean, I would say to you that the Creator has revealed Himself through our Lord Jesus Christ.
I know you said that over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice
Look
one,
after
man.
yourself. Okay. So you would like to talk?